There are two great fears haunting this nation. White people fear something they call black extremism. Black people fear something they call white racism. The balance of this broadcast addresses itself to these two fears and to some common ground we found between the races. We're going to measure white racism first, black extremism second, and then we'll talk about some hopeful signs in the common ground.
First it was vote or die, now it's don't vote. Why? Weed is now legalized. Are you high? Rhymes compartmentalized, separatized to prevent bootleg pirates. Be my guest, keep trying. The bird chirps dying in the dirt because the earth is hurt. But not before I start cursing first. Not so fast, Mr. Iconoclast. If you don't leave the bottle outside, you can't pass. Gather the evidence, then give it to the president. Don't reprimand him, ask him for help next. A lamp with no electrode will not glow. We need some new bright ideas we did not know. You cannot fold under the political pressure. You gotta take prudent and precautionary measures. I think of rhymes in my mind when I autograph sign. I can't wait to sign an autograph for the last time. A Luciferian web, every day we are burying dead. Every color in America bled. This is empirical evidence of the greatest collection of cannabis sentences. You'll never reach the end of it. Fire and forget.
First, the extremes. First, the measure of what the black community fears most. Opposition to equal rights for Negroes, prejudice, and racism, defined generally as an assumption of superiority and discrimination with overtones of hostility. Hal Walker discusses this extreme in the American mind.
We begin with white attitudes that underline the racial problem. The white of today is being asked to answer for history. This Midwestern housewife, like a lot of white Americans, does not think the Negro should present history's bill to her.
We hear so much about the slavery. 300 years ago, our grandfathers were slaves, or 200 years ago, our grandfathers were slaves. Well, for God's sakes, did we have anything to do with that? I had no part in it. I had no slaves. My folks didn't. My grandparents didn't. Are they blaming us for what happened 3 years ago? Let's forget the past. Think of the future. Build up the future. And why keep hemming and hawing over the same thing over and over and over again? And they say, you must give me land because my grandfather was a slave. Well, then I would say, for God's sakes, find the man who had your grandfather as a slave and then demand the land from him. Don't bother me because I have no part of it.
Rhyme for respect, I didn't get that, so I wrote Poet Laureate. The Hubble Space Telescope images change bis, and nothing on this planet can dissuade this. They left me dehydrated by the Nile River naked, but I made it with the passion of a microphone patriot. Music is my bread and butter, why should I suffer? My publicist said she could give me Time Life's cover. The spin-off from the press should be able to feed you, but I decline cause I'm familiar with what greed can do. I cannot lose or win. I would only like to be remembered as the dark-skinned lizard king. Into the bottomless pool of poetry I plunge. Let it be said, let it be written, let it be done. Publicly coming forward with my metaphors to share about space serpents flying around in the troposphere.
I feel that they're basically lazy when this summer, for example, opportunity was given to them to better themselves in getting as many jobs as possible in various fields of retail, wholesale, and they don't take the full advantage of accepting the responsibility of going out for these jobs. They feel that they're not good enough for them.
About half of whites agreed with this woman that Negroes tend to be lazy more than whites. And this woman mentioned another charge against Negroes, that they have low morals.
Their sex problem, let's face it now, how many white people have 10 illegitimate children? Very few, very few. This seems to be a trend with them. And I often wondered, what happens to these here men who follow these children? Are they busy making babies elsewhere, or are they busy in the civil rights march yelling for their civil rights?
And 4 out of 10 whites in our survey agreed that Negroes, more than whites, have low moral standards. However, half or more of whites disagree with some of the views you have just heard. For example, they reject the idea that Negroes are more likely than whites to have low morals. But for the moment, we're concentrating on attitudes opposed to racial integration. In Chicago, we talked with a group of whites who call themselves lower middle class. They are worried about Negroes moving into their neighborhood.
And they are not responsible citizens. Until they live like we are, we don't want them.
I don't want to live with me, to tell you the truth. Whether they take care of them or not, I don't live with them. Because they ran away from them. And if I wanted to live with them, I wouldn't be paying high taxes like I am. I would have stayed where I was.
More than half of whites in our survey believe Negroes are more likely than whites to run down their own neighborhoods.
In the South, they throw the garbage out of the window and the pigs come and eat it. Here they throw the garbage out of the window and no pigs come and eat it.
In general, are Negroes as civilized as whites? 43% of whites said no, Negroes are not as civilized.
It's his image that he's building. They act like savages, like animals. They kill each other, they rape, and they rob. When there's a riot, well, they wouldn't burn their own places. They had signs all over. Soul Brother. It made no difference. They robbed, raped, plundered, looted their own people.
What about the way Negroes care for their children? About 1/4 of whites say that Negroes are less likely than whites to take good care of their children.
The colored woman does not take care of her child, does not help to educate this child. There's no problem about it. They're ADC. The more children they can have, the more money they get to go out and play the lottery. They get more money to go out and drink a little more gin. But to take care of their children, put a pair of shoes on them. I blame the mother for not educating her child when they're born, from the day they're born till the day they grow up.
Lower intelligence. 1 out of 4 whites also believe Negro children are more likely to hold back the class.
When you were in school, your mother made sure you did your homework before you went out. A colored child, if mother or father don't care if they ever do their homework.
And I feel that this is why the white child is so much more superior to the colored. And not because the colored child doesn't want to learn. It's because there's nobody behind him pushing him.
Lower intelligence. About 1 white in 7 agrees that Negroes have lower intelligence at birth than whites.
We're not all created equal. And as far as intelligence, there is a little book called Breeding Down, and it says in there where the colored is born with an IQ, not born, but it develops, to 80 plus, and the white is 90 and up.
About half of whites polled said they do not think most fellow whites want the Negro to have equality.
They don't desire an education of our type. They have different music. They have a different way of dressing. They have different schools or different churches. Their religion is different. Everything is different.
Sympathetic to the Negro, 38% of whites said they do not think other whites are sympathetic to the problems of the Negro.
I don't want to help them. I don't want to help them. And I don't want them living next door to me for the simple reason that there might be a lot of nice ones, but I got 4 kids, and I don't want them growing up with colored next door to them. Because it's a proven fact. They grow up, they think nothing of each other, they play together. Pretty soon they're in their teens, they start dating, and pretty soon they're marrying. I don't want my kids marrying a colored person.
Where am I trying to go with this? Fire and ash fallout, that's what it's all about. We must construct a shelter, then build a wall around it. All the parents want to do is look at the body, but it won't happen till after the official autopsy. A good psychological environment for science. I'm memorizing and visualizing peace and quiet. Father Arthur Poor Pauper has poor posture, as filthy as the collar of a dirty grave robber. This is my unacknowledged special access project. Time reverse waves and non-linear optics. The coral reef is changing from green to amber. Scientists scramble to come up with new answers. The truth is well within my sphere of pursuit, but I'm unprepared to take action just like you. The innate need for cannabis to be professional make it difficult indeed for me to connect with you. Greetings and salutations, my equations are inundated with information. Electrocranial stimulation, burn skin off face, burn face off skeletal plate. Plasma ray gun gun is just one explanation. Man-made membrane roofing remediation. Any and all entry points have immigration. 1 meter beside the Hubble, outside the bubble. The effects of gravity on my muscles were quite subtle. I do what I wanna do. I have always been that way, because I have always think that way. Attach the piezoelectric transducer to your computer. Poet laureate is the future. Pulsating lights and sounds surround spirits. Binaural beats layered underneath lyrics. 250,000 cycles per second for dolphin hearing. The electrical optical coupling gears effective. 88 kilometers above the planet. My rhymes harness a power beyond your understanding. The gods began to call me. I looked up, a star fell towards me and scorched me to a metaphor freak. The authentic command doctrine of George Washington himself. CW, I'm positive it's him. I proofread my writtens, eat a chicken with the skin missing. Spend the whole night out binge drinking.
When you say that black power should bring the country to its knees anytime it messes with the black man, and these are quotes from Stokely Carmichael, the picture has got to be, in the mind of white man and black man, one of a man who threatens violence.
On the contrary, if you say that you have to bring the country to its knees if it messes with a black man, you're saying that the only protection for black people is that they unite. So that when one black man is touched, because he's black, there's some protection for him. Now it's obvious that that protection does not exist in this country. It does not now exist. And the only people who can have that protection are black people. And black people know that. Now white people may not know that. So it means that you have to build a movement so strong in this country that if one black man is touched, every black man will rise up and let this country know they're not going to tolerate it.
If one black man is touched.
That's right, because he's black. I mean, if a black man is walking down the streets of Mississippi, down the highway with a Bible in his hand, he is shot because he is black.
That's one incident.
Well, I can name you a lot of others, and you know that yourself.
In the northern ghettos,
if one black man in California is driving his pregnant wife to the hospital and he is shot by a white racist policeman, I can name you more incidents.
Then you're saying fight violence with violence.
I am saying that we must build a movement of black people that will protect ourselves so that we are willing to stop that by any means necessary. Now, I'm not concerned about the question of violence. It seems to me that that will depend upon how, in fact, white people respond. If white people, in fact, are willing not to bother with black people because they are black, then there's going to be no question of violence.
Swear your allegiance, the tuition is free. To be a mini-me version with minor abilities. 7.83 hertz from the earth magnified. Signal intelligence emanating from your mind. At the observatory summit of Mount Graham, looking through the starlight scope in my hand. Beautiful longitudinal musical lyrics, fragments of Olympian gossip. That is my vision. If A is a success in life, then A must equal X plus Y plus Z, no doubt. If work equals X and play equals Y, then C must be equal to you shutting your mouth. Surprisingly got the John Campbell Award for writing by summarizing that rhyming can be dehumanizing. From the kinetic to the energetic to the magnetic, ultra, electro, and uncensored resonance. I need to be alone. You can't comfort me like my poems. 1,000 bars put me in the zone. The Pope shook, they ransacked Rome and burnt books. I ran back home to hide mine in the woods. Salute. I would like to propose this next toast to the maturation barrels I caused from French oak. The minerals where they grow determine the stability of the flow. I might get drunk and boast. Corruption is necessary, but tell me who's the beneficiary? Which one of us will sing Hail Mary?
I walked down 25th Place, an attractive, if modest, residential street picked at random. Houses worth $15,000 to $25,000. Why, I wondered, is it so important to keep Negroes from living here? As you listen to the answers, ask yourself how different is the reaction in your own community.
Well, I'll tell you, property depreciates, and as Negroes move into a certain neighborhood, they'll buy one building, there'll be a dozen families move into that building, and you got a mess.
Of course, these are just one-story, one-family buildings here. Most of them, some of them, two families.
So well, if they bought this building here, it's a 6-room apartment. They might have 2 families living in there. And they might put another family down in the basement, maybe 2 families down in the basement. There you're taking the mess there again.
So it's just because you think they might be messy neighbors. That's the only reason.
Well, that's the only reason. If there was one family in one building, and they took care of their place, I don't see why people wouldn't tolerate them.
How would you feel about Negroes moving in here to Cicero?
Well, I really don't know, but some Negroes are clean and some aren't. And if they move in on this block and they're clean, I would play with them.
Mm-hmm. What does your mom and dad say about it?
Well, they say, well, I really don't know. They don't say too much about it.
Are they enthusiastic or no?
No. My dad says if they do, well, we're just going to have to move maybe.
Is that your mother up there working?
Yes, it is.
Let's see if I can't talk to her for just a moment.
Ma'am, I wonder if I could ask you to come on down the stairs just an instant and talk to me?
There's been so much talk recently about Cicero and Negroes and property values. What's your view?
Well, I'm perfectly satisfied with the neighbors we have. We have old homes here. We take very good care of them.
I see that you do.
And when it would come right down to it, I don't think we would object to other neighbors if they would come up to our standards of living.
So do you think that the fact that a man is a Negro or a woman is a Negro, on the face of it, simply makes them an undesirable neighbor?
No, not really. I've known so many colored people that are so nice. But like I say, I think they have to learn to live the way we do and take care of things.
How do people learn to live that way?
By hard work. We have worked very, very hard for what we have. We've been here 30 years and we didn't get anything for nothing. We worked very hard for what we have and we're still working hard to maintain it.
How would you feel, truly, if a colored family were to move in over there with the washers hanging on the line?
Oh, I don't know. I really couldn't say. I'd probably get along very good with them. If they leave me alone, I leave them alone. I'd be afraid to go out at night.
Afraid to go out at night?
What kind of colored people living around here?
You mean you think there are violent people?
Well, some of them are. There are some that really would be like that, and there are some good ones too. I mean, you really couldn't trust any of them.
There are many good colors, and I worked with some of them, and I liked them, and I like this person that I said works at the lounge over there. But there's the ones that are going to march I don't like, and I can't stand, I got no use for.
And when your church tells you human rights, and you pay no attention to your church?
I pay attention to my church when they say about human rights, but what the marchers want, they don't want rights. They say they want peaceful coexistence. How can they have peaceful coexistence when there's all this trouble?
Who makes the trouble?
They do, by marching. There's got to be a simpler way.
What simpler way can you think of?
Talks. Just talks.
Well, there are human rights commissions in various towns around Chicago, none in Cicero.
They can make them.
You think they should?
They should. I just think that there has got to be a better way than marches.